consider this a professional courtesy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. So good to have you all with me once again. I do truly appreciate it. As of yesterday, you can head on over to therebelbroker.com. That is back up again. Right now, it's running the backup site. So for those of you who have gotten used to the old site, this will look a little different. I have sort of wrested control of my internet stuff away from the ether. So hopefully things will get back on track. I'm actually toying with this being an opportunity to just do a complete revamp of the Rebel Broker website. But for right now, you can still go to therebelbroker.com. You can also go to soldbyrobert.com, where I cross-post my shows, so they show up there. But right now, the Rebel Broker is now pointing to the actual folks that host the shows. So you'll get access to everything going back that I've done while I've been on Libsyn. It won't go all the way back to 2007, but it never has. So that's all fine. Wanted to give you an update. I've had several people reach out to me to ask about a show I did before the break. I can't remember the exact title of it. More Real Estate Agent Lies or something like that, where we covered a letter I received from an agent, which was disappointing. I guess you could say at the very least. You could go and check that out if you head on over to therebelbroker.com and then just scroll down a few. I think it's only 5 or 6 shows back. And check that out, or do a search on Real Estate Agent Lies. I'm sure it'll come up with a search for that as well, if you'd like to hear the details. But in any event, we covered a letter that was sent out that was delivered where the agent indicated that they had a buyer interested specifically in my house because of some very specific search criteria. And they even went so far as to include a photo of what was supposed to be the buyers. And because I am who I am, I took a screenshot. I took a picture of that photo, brought it up on my computer, did a photo search, and discovered that it was actually one of the photos you could buy online from anywhere, right? And I read the letter to you. I read my response to this agent and invited her to reach out to me. And those of you who listened to that show wanted to find out if that person ever got back to me. And the answer is no. She did not, never answered, never replied. I sent her an email, and I sent her a physical mail, right? Same email, but I just put it into an envelope, put a stamp on it, and sent it to her so that she could respond. Got no response. Didn't think I would. Whenever I call out an agent in a case like this, I can't remember a time when someone actually responded. I've had some agents get in my face as it relates to things I've said on the show. But that's to be expected, I guess. You know, I call out a lot of stuff that annoys me about real estate that just doesn't bother a lot of other agents. So that I think is all fair game. But I thought I'd give you the update. It's one of those shows where I got an awful lot of folks reaching out to me who wanted to find out how that ended up. So it ended up nowhere. I never heard back. It was actually from 2 agents. The signatures at the bottom were 2 different agents, and neither one of them ever got back in touch with me. So there you go. But the thing to remember is that this isn't a one-off thing. This isn't something that happens rarely. This is standard operating procedure where agents have been trained to be okay with and embrace the casual lie. And it's really one of the things that I can't stand. In fact, if you want to see more shows on the casual lie, just Google, or not Google, but go to therebelbroker.com, go to the search at the top of the page and type in casual lie. And I'm sure I'll have many shows where I probably mention the word casual lie, because I think it's one of the things that really stains the real estate industry, where they are taught by the folks who teach them that the casual lie isn't really a casual lie. It's just effective marketing. And it isn't. Effective marketing should not be based on a lie. And if it is, if you get to the point where you're able to mentally leap over that hurdle of, yeah, that's a lie, but it's in the interest of putting my career forward, you have to wonder where that kind of stuff stops. So anyway, so I thought I'd share that with everyone, let you know where that ended up, which is basically where I thought it would, which is nowhere. Any other updates? No, I don't think so. All the usual stuff. If you'd like to get in contact with me, the best way is still through therebelbroker.com. Once you get there, there'll be a banner logo thing at the top of the page, and one of the little buttons right at the bottom of that logo will be a little envelope looking thing. You click on that, you can send along any email messages my way. You can also find the show through the Google Plus page, through Facebook, all these other ways that you can interact. And the show is also up on YouTube. So if you'd like to go check it out there, feel free. And of course, you can also join the Rebel Underground from the website. Just head on over to therebelbroker.com, click the button on the right titled Join the Rebel Underground, or you can take the survey to support the show. By doing that, you're doing two things. You're helping me out. The bottom line is, if I want to grow the show, I need to be able to show the world the kind of folks who listen to the show, and that's demographic information helps me do that. Now, it is anonymous, so it's not something that you're going to get pestered about. It's really just trying to get a feel for the kind of listeners that listen to the show, and again, it helps the show grow. In return, what I do is every month I do a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card, and by going to the trouble of taking that survey, you're entered into the drawing for that $50 Amazon gift card. And as I mentioned yesterday, come 5 p.m. Pacific time this Sunday, I'm going to go ahead and do that drawing. So if you haven't already entered, please put your name in. If you have entered in any previous month, we've been doing this now for, I don't even know how many months. It could be as much as a year. But you don't need to do it again. It's not like I start all over again and only choose people from the current month. So if you've submitted, fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. And good luck. I hope you win that next $50 Amazon gift card. And for those of you who have, congrats. Let's jump in. I always love it when things sort of fall into place. We've been talking on this show quite a bit about Idaho. I've had a lot of interesting interactions with people who are going to Idaho. I actually had someone post a comment on on the YouTube video version of the show where we talked a little bit about Idaho, where he's a financial guy and he's got people that are going to Idaho. Well, yesterday I mentioned one of the things I really like to look at is numbers from van lines. Okay, so we have some of those numbers. Washington Van Line's list of the most inbound movers in 2017. And I thought this was amazing because it absolutely shows that by paying attention, just keeping your ears open, listen to what people tell you, you're able to pick this stuff out. We've been talking about Idaho for a while. I think I started talking about Idaho before my son even went off to school. So we're talking middle of last year, earlier. If we look at the 2017 Atlas Van Lines inbound moves, what was the number one state? Idaho. And I can't remember when Idaho was on the list last. There's an article that I'll be sharing with you about this from the good folks over at realtor.com or .org. But if you also go, we're looking at I'll also include a link to the Atlas Van Lines site that shows you the 2017 migration patterns. It's really kind of an amazing thing to check out and see what's going on. It'll break it down into inbound, outbound, and balanced. And inbound is more than 55% of total shipments moving into the state. Outbound is more than 55% of total shipments moving out of the state. And balanced is inbound and outbound individually represent 55% or less of shipments. The outbound states are interesting. Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York, Louisiana, New Jersey, New Jersey is one we've talked about a lot. New Jersey has a lot of tough things to deal with if you're someone who's worried about paying high taxes. Delaware, Connecticut, Hawaii, I think I mentioned, is one where a lot of people are leaving. So kind of interesting stuff. In terms of the states that had the most inbound, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. Well, let's go to the actual just broken down list. We don't even need to do that. So number 10 on the list of inbound moves was Rhode Island. Number 9 was Alabama. Number 8 was Oregon. Number 7 was North Carolina. Number 6 was Maine. Number 5 was Alaska. Number 4 was Tennessee. Number 3 was Nevada. Number 2 was Washington. And number 1 was Idaho. So it makes me feel a little better, right? So now you can listen to me again. Now that my October prediction of horrible things, my October 2017 prediction of bad things for the stock market ended up being so absolutely wrong. My suggestion that Idaho was really a top destination, I was right. There we go. A little redemption for the Rebel Broker. And I'm toying with the idea of doing a special for the folks in the Rebel Underground where we take a look at this top 10 list and find an interesting crossroad. Now, what would an interesting crossroad be of this top 10 list for an investor, right? Because we know some of these states aren't really representing awesome deals. And when we're speaking in generalities, I'm sure that in every one of these states, you can find specific areas. But what you really want to do is find the crossroads between lots of folks moving in and really good stats on return on investment. So where are those? I noticed that Tennessee is also on this list, and Chattanooga is another place that's been on my I'd really kind of like to find out more about it list. It's one of those ones where I subscribe to property updates through sites like Trulia and Realtor.com to get information on listings that are coming available in Tennessee. And one of the few things that really has me wondering if I want to do that is just the distance, right? I'm all for renting in other states or owning investment property in other states. I do it, right? My investment property is in Hawaii. So it's not that I'm averse to that, but Tennessee is pretty far out there. I already had quite a bit of ground experience with Hawaii. So I have family that lives there. I've been there a lot. So I had a comfort level. Tennessee, I think I've driven through the state of Tennessee maybe twice. So I'd really need to get some ground truth and figure some things out. But, things like Oregon, relatively close. Nevada, well, relatively close. And I think there's absolutely opportunities where you can figure out where these two things cross. Where are the good places to start thinking about making these investments? Now, what's also interesting is if you go back to some of the folks we've interviewed, where did they come from? We had one I know that came from Tennessee. We had another one that came from North Carolina. So that we're touting how great their markets have been. So I think this is some interesting feedback in terms of informing decisions we might make on where we're going to turn our gaze in 2018 when it comes to trying to evaluate good places to invest. So let's go ahead and do a quick rundown on some of the data that's also included in this Realtor.org article. Atlas Van Lines, which conducted nearly 7,300 relocations in 2017, looked at the percentage of moves in and out of each state to determine the states with the highest number of inbound moves. Quote, historically, moves are job-related, says Jeff Schimmel, Vice President of Transportation Services at Atlas Van Lines. And quote, this past year, people moving wanted to go to the Northwest. Idaho boasted an unemployment rate of just 2.9% in November. That's significantly lower than the national averages of 4.1. Also, the median home price in Idaho is much lower than most of its neighbors at $185,000. Not so true in Boise, by the way. When I looked at downtown Boise, not only were they short on listings, but stuff I did find tended to be more up in the round, closer to the 300,000 range. Prices in the state are quickly rising, however. Home prices were up 10.4% year over year in November in Idaho. That's pretty nuts, which is the fourth highest increase in the nation, according to CoreLogic, a real estate data firm. Washington State came in second in Atlas Van Lines' list of the most inbound movers in 2017. The state saw the highest overall number of new residents moving in. The following states ranked highest, and then we already covered that list. So absolutely, I think this is really great data. Now, if we go and we look at Nevada, I don't think we're going to be surprised on where those folks were going. I'm guessing it's going to end up being Las Vegas. But I also saw an interesting article about Las Vegas, right? And you know, I'm almost hesitant to say the numbers because now that I think about it, I'm wondering if I'm mixing some Sacramento numbers I came across yesterday with this. But I could have sworn that the market had kind of softened a little bit in Las Vegas in terms of how fast properties were selling and how much they were selling for. Now, I know that's true in Sacramento, where inventory is actually up and sales are down. So that's an interesting dynamic because we've talked a lot about Sacramento over the last year, where we kind of tried to postulate where the top was for Sacramento. Sacramento's tough because it's one of those areas where there's not a whole lot there in terms of growth relating to industries. I mean, at least I haven't seen it. Population has grown. A lot of that has happened because government has grown, those types of things. But I think Sacramento still represents a potential opportunity. I think you may just have to be a little bit more careful. But this data should help open your eyes to some other areas. So I think looking at Idaho, Washington, Nevada, and Tennessee would be very interesting opportunities for you. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to review an interesting summary of what CoreLogic, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Home Advisor, Merrill Lynch, National Association of Home Buyers, National Association of Realtors, Wells Fargo, and Zillow, where do they all think prices are going to go in 2018? So we'll take a look at that when we come back, so don't go away.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. Here we are, beginning of the year, start of 2018. What's everybody thinking? Well, what's going to happen this year? What are we going to see in terms of home prices? Well, the numbers are sort of in from everybody, and I think it's interesting to get an idea because there's kind of an interesting spread. It's not a huge spread, but it ranges from about a 3% estimate up to a 5.7% estimate. So that's a pretty good chunk of change we're talking about in terms of who's guessing what. And I thought we'd start at the top of our list here and run down it and just see who thinks what. So CoreLogic is estimating that home prices in 2018 will rise 4.2%. Fannie Mae is estimating an increase of 5.1%. Freddie Mac, an increase of 5.7%. Home Advisor, and I like Home Advisor. Home Advisor, over the years, the feel I get is that they tend to be a little bit more close to reality, and they're at 4%. Merrill Lynch is at 5.4%. National Association of Realtors is at 5%. Wells Fargo is at 5.3%, and Zillow is at 3.0%. The National Association of Home Builders did not put out a number on what they thought home prices would be, but they did put out a number on what they thought would be the total number of home starts. And they think they'll see 1,248,000 home starts in 2018. They think they'll see new home sales of 653,000 and single family starts of 893,000. So they see more than half of starts in new homes, starts of construction being single family starts. I think that's pretty healthy. 893,000 would be good. That would be quite a bit more than half of the starts, and I think that would be a good shift in focus in terms of starting to fill the demand. And remember, we talked about this before. There seems to be a fundamental disconnect in terms of people thinking that buyers out there now, the largest groups of buyers, mostly millennials, want these smaller homes, when in reality, It's what they end up having to settle for because it's of barriers. When I talk to buyers who happen to be in these different segments, whether we're talking about folks who are millennials or Gen Z or whoever else, I get that for whatever bizarre reason, everyone seems to think that each generation completely redefines what's desirable in a home. And I tell you, by and large, I find there is a commonality across all of these spectrums, with the possible exception of folks at the higher end of age. Those folks tend to want fewer rooms, and they're not interested in dealing with huge size, and they tend to want homes without stairs. So, I mean, there are elements clearly that you can break up by age, but again, it doesn't matter what generation they were. The reason why they're making those requests is when you get older, it's harder to go upstairs. When you're getting older, you don't want to be cleaning 5 bedrooms. It's a question of functionality for them. And when the millennials get old, they're going to make the same calls. My estimation is that millennials right now would like to buy the same kind of homes that their parents bought at their age, but they can't. They're saddled with a different kind of a debt scenario than their past generations were. Okay, so let's hit one other thing I wanted to hit today, and that is what's happening with prices as it relates to these other challenges that we've talked about. Why do prices keep going up? And the key I've talked about, and I know in the past we've talked about the way to solve real estate problems is to solve the employment problem, right? And that was absolutely true back when the problem was folks weren't able to buy homes. There weren't enough buyers to be able to come into it. Now, that's less of a problem. More of the problem is now folks simply, even if you've got a good job, in a lot of areas, it's becoming more and more difficult to purchase a home simply because prices have gotten so high. So while that argument about employment being a key part of what feeds a successful real estate marketplace, right? Because you can't get a home loan without having a job, or at least you shouldn't be able to unless you've got a reliable income. The thing we are wrestling with most now is an inventory problem. And the last article I wanted to cover for today was the inventory is at its lowest since 2013, according to the good folks over at Risk Media. Now, of course, as always, I'll be including links to the articles we talked about in today's show. I apologize for yesterday's show. There was a weird glitchy thing that happened when I posted the show, and you ended up getting not the real title. You ended up getting all of the comments in the show notes overwritten. I have since discovered what caused that and fixed it. So apologies for that. I think that may be the first time that's happened since I started doing this in 2007. But it's all taken care of now, so I think we're good. And unfortunately, the links in yesterday's show got lost in that process, so I apologize for that. However, if you Google any of I usually mention the title of those articles. If you Google those as you're listening to the show, you'll find them. So they are very easily track downable, because I also give credit when I'm speaking about the article as to where that article came from. Okay, housing inventory is continuing to shrink. Truly Inventory and Price Watch for the fourth quarter of 2017 definitely reflected this. Across the board in the premium, starter, and trade-up tiers, inventory is down 10.5% year over year, the most considerable drop-off since 2013. Now, you can take a look at this, and again, I'll put a link to assuming no huge errors occur again, we'll have a link to this article in today's show notes. But you can watch this charted since 2013, and inventory is just is not looking good. And this chart, when you look at this chart, make sure to look at it carefully, because you're not looking at the number of inventory. You're looking about the rate of decline, right? Year over year inventory change. So you're looking at a rate. You're not looking at the number. So the last time we saw this big of a drop in inventory was back in 2013, where we're seeing, 25, 30% drops in inventory. Now we've been seeing 5 and 10% drops in inventory. The rate of drop is what's been kind of nuts over the last couple of years. So keep that in mind as you look at this chart. The issue is most pervasive in the entry level, which accounts for just 22.9% of available inventory. To compare, the higher end or premium supply compromises 53.1%. Quote, while the number of premium homes in the market have seen a sharp fall, they continue to make up a larger share of the for sale market, which spells trouble for first-time home buyers. So what does that create? It's creating an environment where the vast majority of the homes are higher end. This continues to feed why millennials are not buying the homes they want, because the entry-level stuff just isn't there. There's not enough of them. Since millennials make up the biggest chunk of buyers, that biggest chunk of buyers is not getting the product that they need because they're finding that the entry-level stuff is potentially too few to match demand. And then at the higher end, they're finding that they're outside of their price range. But no matter where you go in this price range, what we're seeing is just still far more demand than there is supply. Affordability has dropped. Buying a starter home necessitates 39.8% of monthly income, up 1.7% from the fourth quarter of 2016. Buying a trade-up or premium home requires 25.8% and 14%, respectively. They do say, though, in this article that this could turn around. Quote, while the inventory crunch continues, I'm cautiously optimistic that 2018 will be a year for inventory rebound. Not only is American optimism about selling homes at levels not seen since 2014, 16% of homeowners plan to sell a home in the next 2 years. If we see them follow through, there may finally be an uptick in inventory. So there you go. There's another element. Now, we've talked about a lot of creepy reasons why prices might go down in the real estate market. We've talked about debt. We've talked about the effect of pensions going broke having on the overall economy, which would then negatively affect real estate prices. We've talked about ridiculous lending practices that are reflected more in how credit scores are calculated this time around than in terms of simply lending to anybody who had a pulse when things went bad last time. Now, all these crazy things on the bad side continue to exist as potential things that could be a downward force on real estate prices. But here is a more optimistic view of what could force down prices. If we do see more homeowners putting their homes on the market, creating more inventory, that's going to bring down prices, right? That's the supply and demand equation. And since we've seen an uptick also from the National Association of Home Buyers in terms of building they expect to have happen, particularly in the single-family residential space, that could all work out to our advantage. If we get more new homes and more pre-existing homes coming on the marketplace, coming together at the same time, that works out better for consumers. It helps to stabilize prices and even reduce them in areas where this is happening the most. All right, so the key here is to figure out what is the dynamic in your area, what is happening in your area, how likely are these trends to be reflected in your local marketplace. Well, the best way to do that, if you partner up with a real estate agent and start getting regular daily emails on what's going on with your market, you can get a feeling for that, for what's going on, what direction prices are going, that type of stuff. You can also do it if you just really don't want to talk to a real estate agent, and believe me, I understand. Speaking as someone who's been doing real estate since 1988, I hate talking to real estate agents. They're very annoying. You can do this on Realtor.com. You can do this on Trulia. You can do this on Zillow and just get or Redfin, wherever you want to do it. Just get yourself plugged in and get searches running just so you're constantly seeing this stuff. One caution I would give you, though, is you really need to, for the multifamily stuff, I find the best results still come from having a real estate agent set up a search for you. I have a search that I run myself locally for multifamily units. I've also set up what should be basically the same search on other tools like Realtor.com, like Trulia, like Zillow, like Redfin. I don't get the same results. I get on the search I'm able to create with my MLS tool, I get all the stuff they are putting out there, plus I'm getting more. So just keep that in mind in case that same dynamic is at play in your local market. All right, folks, as usual, hopefully we've left more value on the table than you've invested in time. That's always the goal. I want you guys to walk away feeling like you've been given a huge informational gift that can help you make great decisions on your real estate future. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to y'all next time.